Good evening and welcome to True Encounters. I'm your host, Marvin Allen. Like I said, I'm not doing a marathon. What I'm doing is I'm doing some of my favorite old encounters, but I'm doing them separate so that'll give y'all, you know, more than one, just to listen to. So without further ado, we're gonna get into this next encounter. Now, then this next encounter come from Thomas and his brother, and this happened in 2014. And they said this happened in Washington State, close to the United States border and close with Canada. And they said it was during the fall season, going into winter. Thomas said that his grandfather rented him and his brother a cabin. And they was up there because they was going elk hunting. And he said when they got there and got themselves together, they had went down and they had got up into this 20-foot tree stand. He said this had to be about 5:30 in the morning. He said because the sun wasn't up, but it was getting ready to peak over the mountains. And he said after being up there for about 10 minutes, they noticed that the wind had started to change directions. So they still up there in the tree stand. He said, so they making elk calls and everything. He said, that's when Thomas' brother told him, he said, listen. And Thomas said, I don't hear nothing. He said, that's just it. It's dead quiet. You can't hear nothing. Said it was dead silence. They said you couldn't hear nothing. No birds, no bugs, no nothing. He said, to top it off, when they was making elk calls, they didn't see no elk at all. He said, so the wind started blowing again. He said, this time when the wind blew, he said, that's when they both smelled this horrible odor that smelled like something that was decayed, and it smelled it like urine, strong urine. And so Thomas said, do you smell that? And he said, yeah, I smell it. It stink. He said, but I don't know where it's coming from. I didn't see nothing dead when we was coming in. So Thomas said, well, just look around. Just look around through the scope and see if you see any elk. And I'm going to go down and urinate. I have to use the bathroom. So his brother said, well, go ahead, just, hurry up and get back up here. So Thomas said as he was going down the tree stand, before he could get to the bottom, that's when he said this huge rock came hurling and striking him in the side of his face. He said that's when he fell off the tree stand and down on the ground. And his brother said, what happened? He said, man, I don't know. Somebody threw a rock at me. So his brother yelled out from up in the tree stand, man, who out there throwing rocks? Who out there throwing rocks? You hit my brother. But they said it's dead silence. You couldn't hear nothing. So his brother looks through the scope. And when his brother looks through the scope, he yells down to his brother. He say, get up here. Quick, please, hurry up. Get up in this tree stand. And Thomas said, wow, what's wrong? He said, look, just get up here now. Hurry up. So Thomas said that he gets up and he goes up there and get back in the tree stand. So he gets up there. He asked his brother, he said, what's wrong? Why are you rushing me up here? And he said, look. Thomas said when he looked, he saw this humanoid looking creature peeking from behind a very large tree. Now Thomas said that this tree was huge. He said because when this creature was peeping around it, he said you could see the shoulder on the other side of the tree. He said when he looking at this creature, he said he noticed that he could see a snout on this creature. Now he said this creature watching him. He said this creature looking straight at him. They looking at this thing. It's not that far from him. So his brother asked Thomas, he said, what do you think that is? Said, I don't know what it is. He said, is it a Bigfoot? He said, no, that thing got a snout. And you could see the ear sticking straight up on it. He said it looked like it got a head like a canine, like a dove. So they both standing there watching this creature. And they said as they was watching this creature, they noticed another rock being thrown that hits the side of the tree stand. Now, mind you, that's when Thomas looks out his 308 scope and he could see that this thing had yellow eyes. Now, he watching this thing through the scope. And he said that this thing had yellow eyes. He said after a few seconds, another rock was hurled. And it hit the side of the tree stand again. But mind you, Thomas said that this was coming in a total different direction than the first one. So Thomas turns his scope and scans on the other side through the tree line. He said when he scanned, he noticed another huge creature standing under a branch, bipedal. He said this thing had the upper body of a human, long arms. It had the pointed ears, long snout. Said this thing was gray in color. Said it wasn't black. Said this thing was gray in color. Said this thing had the bent back leg like the dove. He said this thing had hands. He said, so he watching this creature. Then he turned and looked, and he looks at the other creature. He said when he looked at the other creature, he noticed the other creature come from behind a tree. So now they know that it's two of these things. So Thomas asked his brother, he said, man, what do you want to do? Do you want to shoot? His brother said, no, those things are huge. We don't even know if these bullets going to stop them. He said, well, the sun is getting ready to come up. So they said they stayed up in there until the sun came up. But they still watching these creatures. He said, so when the sun came up, that's when that first creature walked over and stood about 10 feet from the other one. Now, mind you, they both still watching these creatures, and these creatures are watching them. So Thomas says, man, I don't know what they're going to do, so I'm going to just shoot a warning shot. Thomas says he shoots a warning shot, striking a tree. He said, but these creatures don't move. So his brother said, man, a shot looked like it would have scared anything. He said, but they not even moving. So Thomas said, man, I'm not going to try to shoot them things. They are too big. He said, so now the sun is coming up. The sun is starting to rise. And he said, when the sun came up and started to set, he said, that's when them creatures turned and they walked deeper up in the tree line. He said he noticed that one of those creatures had the duck under a branch. He said, so after the creatures got out of sight, they waited for about an hour to 2 hours, then got down and went back and went to their cabin. He said the thing that they noticed, they stayed up there a week. He said during this time, they did not see one elk. He said they didn't see one elk. So Thomas said he was curious. Thomas said he went back out there. He had tape measures and all that. And he said he measured that tree where that branch came under. He said when he measured that, he said that branch set 14 feet off the ground. He said this thing had to duck under it. He said, so this thing had to be huge. He said that was the first and the last time that he saw one of these things. Because he said he didn't even know nothing about no dogman or nothing like that until he seen them. So that was Thomas and his brother encounter, and that happened up in Washington State. So hope y'all enjoy that. I'll be right back with another encounter.